Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you, Madam Secretary, for being here. Just to clarify, you knew we had a presence.
Of course I knew. I knew, Congressman, of course.
And going back to an earlier question, you were also aware of those two attacks on our compounds, even though you didn't email about it.
Yes, I was aware.
And that, I think, sort of points out, I mean, after 17 months and $4.7 million, as the ranking member pointed out in his opening statements, and then as we've seen today, this committee is simply not doing its job. And I don't really think it should have been formed in the first place. But what we've heard here is, well, first of all, an obsession with email. The idea that two fairly junior level staffers might not have gotten something wrong in what they heard, or that information in an email might in fact not be accurate, are certainly not things that should be news to anybody. But it is the obsession with the emails that takes us off of what should have been the task of this committee. I also find it interesting that Ms. Roby's final comments were to quote the ARB report. Right. Yes, the ARB report I think was very good. I think we absolutely had to have it, and I think it was appropriate for the committees in Congress to do the investigations that they did. But all of that begs the question as to why we've spent the $4.7 million that we have spent on this. And then even in the chairman's opening remarks, it was primarily a defense of the committee's existence. Not any new information, not here's what we, in those 17 months and $4.7 million, have figured out that is new and different. Nothing. In fact, we've heard nothing, even in today's hearing, not a single solitary thing that hasn't already been discussed repeatedly. So we've learned absolutely nothing. Yes, we've uncovered a trove of new information. In this age, I don't think there's ever an end to the emails. We could probably go on for another 2 years and we'd find more. But the question is, have we found anything substantively that tells us something different about what happened in Benghazi? And the answer to that question is no. And look, I didn't think this committee should have been formed in the first place. But if it was going to be formed, the least we could do would be to actually focus on the 4 brave Americans who were killed, why they were killed, and focus on Benghazi. And we have not. I mean, Mr. Roskam's questions I found to be the most interesting. Basically, I don't know, it was like he was running for president. He wanted to debate you on overall Libya policy as to why we got in there in the first place. And that's debatable, and I think you will argue that quite well. But that's not about the attack on Benghazi. That's not about what we could have done in Benghazi to better protect them. So again, I think we've seen that this committee is focused on you. And I'm, the ranking member of the Armed Services Committee. I don't see the Department of Defense here. I don't see the CIA here. There were many, many other agencies involved in this, and yet yours has been the one that they have obsessively focused on. And I think that's a shame for a whole lot of reasons. But for one thing, this committee, as it's been in the news in the last several weeks, has been yet one more step in denigrating this institution. And I happen to think this institution needs more support, not less. So I wish we would stop doing that. And you mentioned Beirut, and that was the first thought that occurred to me when this happened, was a Democratic Congress at the time did a fair and quick investigation of what was an unspeakable tragedy. 2 separate suicide bombings, 4 months apart. And there was clearly inadequate security. But the focus there was not on partisanship, not on embarrassing the Reagan administration, but on actually figuring out what happened and how we can better protect Americans. Now, I want to talk just